Hello and welcome, folks, to another countdown to kickoff. Happy game day. Whoops. I guess I should bring that in too. Yeah, so hello, folks. Happy game day. Welcome to another episode of Countdown to Kickoff. I'm JPeeps. And as always, before we get started, make sure you leave comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel as well. Would have loved to have been in Tallahassee today, but unfortunately was not able to. Hopefully I can be there for the NC Central game. But yeah, so opening conference game of the season, FAMU and Alabama State. So of course, as always, we're going to talk about, players to watch, keys to victory, your thoughts and opinions in the comment section as well. And then as well, too, gives a couple of score predictions. And what did Coach Colsey and also what did Eddie Robinson have to say to the media in the Monday conference call? Didn't get to see the Wednesday 220 QB Club episode. It is what it is. It's fine. But yeah, and then also too, it's also Sports Hall of Fame weekend as well. So we'll take a look at all the Sports Hall of Famers that are going into the Hall of Fame this weekend as well, and a QB comparison of numbers, which tell the story, but at the same time too, don't tell the whole story. So we'll be previewing that as well. So before we run this intro, of course, a couple of scores actually really only two scores to keep track of right now. I'll give you three. So of course, last night everybody saw, Florida State going down 46-38 in double overtime to Virginia, which was shocker, but not really, because typical weeknight Florida State vibe. They struggle typically during the weeks. But also, too, of course, score at halftime before we roll the intro. Notre Dame up big, 42-13 on Arkansas. Illinois up 14-10 on USC. Both of those games are at the half. And then, of course, this game, FAMU and Alabama State, starts at 3 on HBCU Go, might I add. And then, of course, also, you still have at 3:30 today, Auburn and Texas A&M, LSU and Ole Miss. At 4:15, you have Tennessee and Mississippi State in Starkville. And then as well, too, you have Jackson State and Southern at 7 p.m. And then, of course, the two tonight that are big ones, you have Georgia hosting Alabama. And then, of course, you have Oregon going to Happy Valley for a whiteout tonight against Penn State. And then, of course, tonight, too, you have basically the big sky after dark. You've got Idaho versus Montana. So those are your scores and your games for this weekend as well. So without further ado, of course, like I said, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Get comfortable, get cozy. We are going to start this and get it rolling. See you on the other side. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, first we'll talk about basically what did Colsey have to say to the media this week. So, fuck it. Be all right. So basically, as stated, Colsey basically came out and said we got to get to him in regarding Andrew Body. Basically said, we got to get to him. We got to change it up, some coverages and some looks. We have to hold them to field goals as opposed to TDs. Or, in my opinion, really, how about just holding them to no points at all, which would be a great start. He also stated, Bama State is, or someone asked, my bad, Bama State is number 2 in scoring defense in the SWAC. He also stated offensively, we have to run the ball well, and defensively, we have to tackle well and keep body off the field, which I understand. I get. Yes, you know, much like any quarterback that can hurt you multiple ways, the best way to beat them is keep them on the sideline. They can't hurt you if they're not in the game. So, what does that entail of? Long, sustained drives, being successful, converting those third and shorts, getting across the 50, not settling for field goals, getting touchdowns, finishing drives, all of those things. As well, too, he also stated, we have to do a good job of tackling and getting 11 hats to the ball. Yes, you do. They have not done a spectacular job. They've done a decent job. Last game, decent. Orange Blossom Classic did a pretty good job. You held Howard to 10 points. You should have won that game, but we know the problem was there. Florida Atlantic, let's not talk about it. Let's see. Also, too, he said we have to play really well to keep this game close. Which, I'm like, wait a minute, what? I was kind of confused and taken back by that. No, you don't want this game to be close. I mean, it's going to be a dogfight, but you don't want this game to be close. Like, you should be playing to put your foot on their throat. Like, why would you say that? Also, too, he said our QB play is going to have to match the level of what they're doing at Alabama State. How about exceeding that level? Like, oh, boy. He also said in these types of games, it's about turnovers, TDs, and not settling for field goals and finishing in the fourth quarter at a high level. So, again, he keeps referring back to the past, which I get, and seeing how these games used to go. Yes, you do need to finish. As well, too, he said we're going to go as far as Thad Franklin takes us. We have to win third down and in the red zone. Last point made sense. That first point, yes, you do need to establish your run game, because if you run the ball successfully, you drain the clock and you keep them off the field. Again, converting those third down plays, third and short, you should be falling forward 5 to 6 yards every time. All right, so, and now what did Eddie Robinson have to say? So, and funny enough, too, he alluded to and mentioned, the hostile environment that Bragg is, which it is. He mentioned and alluded to the home crowd, the fact that the student section is right on top of you. And quite frankly, in the past, he's not the first coach to state that. Let's see. What's up, little baby 245? How are you this afternoon? So, yeah, Eddie Robinson, what's up, Hollow? How are you? Hope everybody's game day is going well here an hour before kickoff. So, yeah, so Eddie Robinson in his interview basically alluded to, saying it'll be tough, physical, and hot. We have to be ready. Yes, that's all facts. It's Florida, and it's basically the end of September, which is still hot. He said also, too, we have to run the football effectively to control and manage the game, which if you look at where this is going, both coaches are alluding to the fact that, yeah, we better run the ball effectively today. And if we don't, we're in trouble. Let's see. And I agree with that. Very, very much so, Kylan. I agree. It comes down to the quarterback making the right decisions, the right reads, and taking care of the football, which both these quarterbacks have. And RJ Johnson's done a good job of taking care of the football. Sometimes too good of a job holding the ball for too long. But if he can clean that up, then I feel like we have a shot. I think we all are a little nervous, Hollow. We all are. Oh yeah, don't worry. I'm ready to yell at my TV too. Hollow, it is on. It's on HBCU Go today at 3:00. I think that's part of the reason why this game's not a 6 p.m. kickoff like we're all accustomed to. I think the TV schedule with SWAC TV and then HBCU Go plus ESPN Plus all factored in, depending on what network you're on, is determining what like TV network you get. We should. In my takeaway, I didn't think it was that good, to be honest with you. I watched their game against Southern. I didn't even waste my time watching their game against Miles because I figured I'm like they're gonna run away with that, and the score was a good indication. He is. It's a blessing and it's a curse. Again, he's not turning the ball over, but at the same time too, it's like you're holding the ball for too long and you're missing some quick passes. You'd like your quarterback really in this offense. And I get it. He's not a starter. I get it. People have their own opinions of it. But the one thing, and I talked to Bishop about this too on Tuesday night, or the last 2 weeks, I've talked to Bishop about this. I think Jet Petty has shown in this offense that it's supposed to be a quick release, fast pace, like get the ball out quick type offense. And then just like, nickel and dime. And if the shot's there, take it. And the fact that RJ is very cautious, I think he's kind of missing some of those reads. But at the same time, too, I think he needs to learn to pull off of the first read. And I think, honestly, that's what Alabama State's going to do today. They're going to probably take away the first read. They're going to probably force him to go somewhere else. And he's going to have to, know how to make those reads, how to get the ball out quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an HBCU Go app on Roku that you can go to and find it. So you can just like download it to your Roku and then stream that platform. So you should be able to. And I think you can also watch it on your phone and everything too. Because quite frankly, I might just sit here and watch it on the computer and then have the game going on one of my other TVs here. But also too, as I digress, Eddie Robinson also mentioned too, he said FAMU's starting to find continuity in what their kids do well. And, that's true. I mean, personally, I came out of the Albany State game with more questions than I had answers to. But again, part of it was, wide receivers dropped a lot of passes. I'll just call it what it is. They dropped a lot of passes in that game. He also stated too, he said we have to overcome the adversity if it hits and when it does. And that could be, the elements. That could also be the fact of, if and when FAMU makes a play, they're going to have to find a way to capitalize. They may be the team that has to go down the field and go 80 yards to go get a score. Or they may be the ones that, you put the pressure on, they got to make that last second field goal. It's, that's the adversity I think he's talking about. He also stated we have to understand what we're walking into. We won't make the same mistakes we made 2 years ago. Hey, I mean, again, and he stated too, they have kids that have been to Tallahassee before already that were on the strip 2 years ago. They know what it's like. The crowd's going to get into your head. They're going to heckle you, which is common in American sports. So how you handle that determines how far you go if you're Eddie Robinson coming into the day. He also said something interesting too regarding Andrew Body and putting more on his plate as far as the playbook goes. He said the more trust and faith we have in Andrew, we are able to give him more plays within the offense. It has to improve. And quite honestly, I think, the more that he shows he can do within the offense, I think the more that they're going to put on his plate. And they're going to realize, hey, this offense goes through you. As you go is how this offense goes. I think this team's going to get up for this game. Got a pressure on Body. Yeah. No, you do. And funny enough, that's actually one of my key facts coming into this game, actually. So in regard to that, Alabama State, before I get to FAMU, they open as a 5.5-point favorite against FAMU on the road. First time probably in a while. They're averaging 44.3 points per game, according to ESPN. And that's against, Miles, Southern, and a UAB team whose head coach I think needs to go back to coaching high school football. And then as well, too, one thing I took away was Southern did a good job defending them in the first half. So 78 yards passing in the first half is what Southern held them to. And then you also look at it, Andrew Body didn't have much success on the ground when he was trying to escape the pocket. Southern did a great job. And I think part of it was the score was what it was because Southern made a lot of mistakes. They made way too many mistakes offensively that, gave Alabama State a short field or gave Alabama State much added momentum because that game was, I believe, like 3-3 or 6-7 at one point going into the half, and then it got out of hand. So it did. It showed the way. It absolutely did. And quite frankly, I do think that I think FAMU's defense is much better. I think FAMU offensively is more consistent than Southern, despite some shortcomings. So I do expect FAMU to not go out there and look like Southern, but have a better showing than Southern did. Hey, that's the hand you've been dealt. When you come out and you look lethargic against a Howard team that I thought you should have put 30 points on, and then you just it gets out of hand against Florida Atlantic, and then you go down early 14-3 and have to scratch and claw, and then factor in you're playing musical chairs with quarterbacks. That's what happens. You're going to be a 5-point underdog. You're going to be a 5-point underdog at home. And at this point now, it's like you got to remind people who you are. And yeah, it is embarrassing, but hopefully that trend changes today. All right. So as well too, so in that game against Southern, Alabama State finished with 198 yards passing in total. Andrew Body has thrown 10 touchdown passes this season, no interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown. Against Southern, they did have success taking the check down passes, so they've limited the deep ball early, and that was early. Southern did turn the ball over 5 times in that game, as I alluded to previously. Southern just basically fell apart. So I don't think that you'll see a 5 turnover type game where this team just falls out of it. I don't think. As well, 130 yards rushing last week versus Miles. They held Miles to 73 yards rushing. They were 3 of 9 on third down. So again, another opportunity there to where if you do get into a third and long situation, I do believe this defense should have success getting off the field on third down. As well, too, Alabama State, they, much like FAMU, had the luxury of a bye week. 8 penalties for 57 yards in that Miles game. Yeah, and I don't think this offense will turn it over 5 times. Quite honestly, I'd rather take the drops than turning the ball over and giving them a short field. Quite honestly. So I mean, this might be the perfect game for RJ Johnson and even Jet Petty, who I quite honestly I think we'll see both. So I think we'll continue to see the musical chairs at QB. This is a perfect game to show, don't take the risk, and unless it's absolutely there, and if you do take it, your wide receivers better catch it. So I don't. Again, then that's where I say I don't think we're as bad as Southern. We're not. We are far better than Southern. Let's see. So for FAMU today, of course, your last game out, you won 33-25 against Albany State. Your offense is averaging 18.7 points per game, according to ESPN. Musical chairs at QB, as I've alluded to. And honestly, at this point, this is week 5. You need to have your quarterback set. You need to have your guy and just say, hey, we're sticking with you. No matter what, you're the guy. This is where we're going. Unless you absolutely mess up, like I'm talking 3 interceptions, then we're at that point, we're pulling you. But anything less than that, you're still our guy. And the fact that we're still playing musical chairs and it's week 5, I don't get it. I don't know why. Maybe there's something there that we don't see, but I don't know. I wouldn't be playing musical chairs this far into the season. And it is, because it's like, what's going to happen if one's not playing well? You put one in, the other starts playing well, and then you go back to the other one, and he starts to stink it up again, and then you've already taken this one guy out. He's cold now. If you put him back in, then all of a sudden he's cold too. What happens? Like, exactly. If he's your guy, you stick with him. If that's who you're gonna live and die with, go live and die with him. if you're gonna put Jet in, leave him in. You enough of this back and forth. What are we? It's week 5. The training wheels should be off by now. You had a whole bye week to evaluate these guys. By the way, that was the other thing Colsey mentioned. He said both quarterbacks have had a good bye week so far, so we'll continue to evaluate during the week of the game. But again, we know who's starting. All I know is I don't know. This should have been over and settled by now, quite honestly. This is but who knows? Maybe we'll see one true guy today. Maybe we will. Maybe one comes out and looks the part, and this is the start of an incredible run for whoever it is. Let's see. So defense is facing a QB who has not thrown an interception this season, as I alluded to with Andrew Body. So again, this is an opportunity today for this defense to get an interception, force a turnover, do something that UAB didn't do, Miles, Southern, do something that those schools didn't do, and go out there and try to go get a turnover off this guy. He hasn't thrown an interception this season. Good afternoon, Montre. How are you? Good afternoon. Also, too, Thad Franklin and this rushing attack have to find a consistent groove. Only 91 yards on the ground from the running backs in the last game. And it's a great point Bishop made, honestly, Tuesday night or last Tuesday. You know, we see this rushing attack only as all in total accumulating 91 yards on the ground. But to be honest with you, this rushing game should be averaging out at 150. Quite honestly, I said 200. Maybe I put my expectations a little too high, but you know, I'm with Bishop when he says 150. I'm like, you know, that would be ideal as well. 150 to 200 yards per game on average would be great. 91, come on, you gotta step it up. I need our DBs to bow up. I want 16 to stop play. Yeah. The whole secondary, honestly. The whole secondary. And, you know, they've only gotten, one turnover? Yeah, one interception as a secondary this whole season, and that was week 1 against Howard. The only other turnover that this defense as a whole, when you include special teams too, has gotten was Albany State. They forced a fumble on kickoff and then basically gave the offense a short field. You'd like to see more turnovers forced. So hopefully today, again, it presents an opportunity. This guy hasn't thrown an interception all season. I think this is the first time since coming into the SWAC that FAMU's seen Andrew Body, because every other time he's been injured. Quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think he was going to make it this far because, again, he's had terrible luck, but good for the kid. He's made it this far. So, again, an opportunity presents itself. 152. It would do us very well, quite honestly. That means you are having sustained success, and that's where we need it to be. You shouldn't be at 90 to 95. Quite frankly, before this, I think it was it wasn't even at 150. I think before that was like 76 or something like that. But again, needs to improve, and hopefully we do see a 150 to 200 type game rushing on the ground. As well, too, let's see. RJ's been as funny enough. Let's see. Where's that comment at? Where is it at? I need to find it. Yeah, funny enough, Hollow said this. RJ Johnson's been too safe with the football, but has not turned it over. 4 TD passes this season. And I guess this is the time when I can kind of allude to this photo right here. So, interestingly enough, Andrew Body coming into today, 761 passing yards. Behind him, and I think this makes for an interesting Magic City Classic, you have Cornelius Brown, the 4th, who has thrown 719 passing yards this season. And then behind them, RJ Johnson, 677 passing yards this season. So your top 3 passers in the SWAC they're all in the East, which I'm surprised that Alabama A&M actually has the second highest, but nevertheless. So again, this is a matchup of 2 of the top passers, 2 out of the 3 top passers in the SWAC for today. So interesting matchup. Also, Cam Donald is expected to play. No word on Jamar Taylor, who I thought had a very good game against Florida Atlantic, and then he was on his way to having a great game against Albany State, then sustained that ankle injury. I've also heard too, Chase Lloyd's supposed to be back. Jalen Rogers is supposed to be back today too as well. Like to see Jalen Rogers, step it up from that lackluster performance against Florida Atlantic. And then also too, mentioning wide receivers had a case of the drops last week. I did notice something on Instagram with Coach Vincent Jeffries. He had these guys on the jugs machine consistently, so that was a good sign to see. And then also too, last week, and you cannot let this happen today. 11 penalties for 102 yards last week. 11 penalties, 102 yards. That's costly. Although, granted, looking back at it and having had been there to see it, I didn't think the blindside block or the clipping call, whatever you want to call it, on Kenari Wilcher was exactly a penalty. I thought that was a dumb call by the officials. And then there's a few other questionable calls sprinkled in there as well that I didn't think should have been flags. But, and this is why, and thankfully the ACC is doing it now, I would love to see the replay booth for the SWAC office, or really just the replay booth from the SWAC office, like recapping these reviews and stuff, because I just want to see what kind of train wreck that this conference is. Those penalties jumped sky. Yeah, they did, and it's not a good sign. You don't want to see that you don't want to see, you never want to see that, and really you shouldn't see that after playing a Division II team. So hopefully that's under control again. The word that's been emphasized and used is discipline and details and everything such as that. So that shouldn't be happening if you're emphasizing details and discipline. 102 yards worth of penalty shouldn't be happening. Let's see, Elijah Felipe. I think he might be playing this week too. I think he might be. I know they did mention a lot of guys are coming back this week, which is a very good sign. Now, as far as players to watch goes for Alabama State, of course, Andrew Body, 14 of 16 last week against Miles, 251 through the air, 4 TD passes, 60 on the ground. Jamari Holtzclaw, 8 carries, 36 yards. So, funny enough, Andrew Body was also their leading rusher against Miles 2 weeks ago. Jalen Jones, 4 receptions, 118 yards, 2 TDs. And that's the guy on the outside that the FAMU secondary is going to be tasked with slowing down. Dylan DeJetti, 3 receptions, 43 yards, 1 TD 2 weeks ago. Jeez. Defensive end Jalen Jarrett, half a sack on the season. And then linebacker Jaleel Lenore, 8 total tackles, 1 forced fumble this season. And, yeah. And then for FAMU, RJ Johnson, 17 of 22 2 weeks ago against Albany State, 272 yards passing, 2 TDs. Thad Franklin, 15 carries, 76 yards. Kenari Wilcher, 5 receptions, 121 yards, 1 TD. Then, of course, you had Jordan Edwards, who didn't flash in the stat sheet, but had a decent evening. And then, of course, Armand Burris, who is Coach Burris' son, who flashed 5 receptions, 78 yards. He's been slowly, consistently coming on. So I'm excited to see what he does today. And then, of course, your linebacker in the middle, Jason Riles Jr., who is a UAB transfer, came over with Kenwick Thompson, who's the DC. 20 total tackles, leads this team. Quite frankly, he's been all over the place. He's really been the lone bright spot. I can honestly say that has stood out week after week after week. So, he's leading the clubhouse with 20 total tackles this year. Excited to see what he does today. Was all over the place against Florida Atlantic. The guy continues to stand out on film. I think that's your alpha in the middle on defense. And then Antonio Cameron, 2 sacks this season so far. Hopefully he has multiple sack day to day. So those are your players to watch. And now for some questions I've devised for myself here. So I think we'll just go back and forth. one for FAMU, one for Alabama State. So how important is it for FAMU to establish the run game today? Honestly, I think it's very important. You establish the run game, you sustain long drives, you get to, again, that 150, 200-yard mark rushing. That keeps Andrew Body and this offense on the sideline. I also think that at the same time, too, you put yourself in a good situation there to score touchdowns and not settle for field goals, even if you do settle for them. And then for Alabama State, first question is basically, what element of this FAMU defense can they take advantage of? Quite frankly, if I were FAMU's defense and I was going to attack them, or if I'm Alabama State, I'm going to attack FAMU's defense. Knowing what I've seen against Southern with Alabama State, if I'm FAMU's defense, I'm probably going to take away the run. So I'm going to force FAMU secondary to make plays, see what they can do deep, see how they handle the deep ball. I'm probably going to challenge them in that aspect. And then for FAMU, will we see the musical chairs at QB again? Oof. Look, again, much like Little Baby 245 said, you need to have your guy by this point. It's week 5. Come on. I'm not going to rule out the fact that I do think we're going to see both quarterbacks today, but at some point, the discussion needs to be had. You're our guy. You're the one who we're going to win with. This whole 2 QB system proves inconsistency and stalling for an offense, because it's like one guy comes in hot, one guy goes back in cold, vice versa. I don't like it personally. I think you just got to roll with the hot hand. But I do think we're going to see both today. As well, too, how do you avoid a sluggish start in the first half, much like you did against Southern if you're Alabama State? Honestly, being prepared for whatever happens if you're Alabama State. I would say, no FAMU's going to try to take away the run first off. They're going to try to take away the run game with Holtzclaw. They're going to try to take away the run game with Andrew Body. And in doing so, you got to be prepared to, throw the ball, let it rip downfield, get vertical. And at that point, too, that's where FAMU secondary needs to step up. As well, too, what's the best way to stop Andrew Body? In my opinion, limit him rushing, force him to make throws, force the tight windows, make plays when those throws are in tight windows, but at the same time, too, keep him on the sideline. That is the best way that you're going to beat any quarterback, truthfully. If they can't get in the game, they cannot impact the game. Simply put. As well, too, what will be the approach to confusing R.J. Johnson if you're Alabama State? I'm doing what everybody else has done so far, loading the box. Probably sending a delayed blitz to throw off the timing. That's the one thing I would do if I'm Alabama State. And let's be honest, Eddie Robinson, NFL experience, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants to do. He's going to probably send a delayed blitz, or probably send a blitz at some point, probably send 2 guys blitzing, probably like in a nickel package or something, send a nickel backer, send a linebacker off the edge, and they're going to try to knock him off his mark. Now, how does he handle it? We'll see. Hopefully the bye week proved well. Let's see, what will it take to create turnovers defensively for FAMU? Honestly, I would say, force tight windows. Get pressure up the middle. Don't let Andrew Body escape the pocket. Get him on the run. Knock him off his mark. If you create pressure, eventually he'll throw it up for grabs. He'll probably give you one. Who knows? Now, the thing is, when he does give you one, you need to capitalize off of it, because at this point, they don't come around often. So take full advantage of the opportunity. As well, too, let's see. Are they a team that takes advantage of mistakes? For Alabama State, I think they are, quite honestly, because, again, 5 turnovers, they stopped them. You know what? That's actually very factual. I'm glad Kylan actually said that. That's thick 36, thick 26, the March 100, the crowd. Yeah, honestly, all of that needs to be on standby. I think they called it, the distraction committee. I think that needs to also be available and ready to just roam the sideline, quite honestly. So I think if you factor that in, as well as what I just said, of course, with creating pressure, just constantly breathing down his back, I think you got a shot. All right, so let's see. Also, why is it important to eliminate the penalties? Last question before we get into keys to victory here. And by the way, y'all can start dropping your score predictions in the comment if you'd like. Also, if you're on the way to the game, drive safe and everything too. I know we got about 30 minutes here before kickoff. But yeah, why is it important to eliminate the penalties? Quite frankly, if you eliminate the penalties, you limit the opportunities for Alabama State. Simply put. So with that being said, let me go ahead and give the keys to victory. Actually, first, before we give the keys to victory, let's shout out the Hall of Famers for this weekend as well, too. So as you can see, well, you know what? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Let's not do that. Hold on. Here we go. So yeah, Sports Hall of Fame and Shrine ceremony was last night, 7 p.m. inside Gaither Gym. These are all the people that went in. So Wayne Barber, Willie Booker, Jomo Cousins, who I didn't know. I believe he's a pastor here in the Tampa Bay area. So shout out to him. Kuvandra Curry, Amber Fullwood, Roy Moore, Carlos Odom, Jorge Olaves, Jacqueline Perkins, Dr. Maurice Pickett, Rachel Pye, Michael Smith, who I believe was the interim AD a time or two, more times than we can count, because he's always having to step up into that position because of the rotating chair that has been the AD seat. E. Lillian Spencer, also Philip Sylvester, who quite honestly was the last 1,000-yard rusher for FAMU. And then, of course, Van Wilson. So those are all your enshrinees into the FAMU Sports Hall of Fame as of last night. So, kudos to them. Congratulations. That's a huge honor. All right. So now, keys to victory. Here we go. So that being said, key to victory number 1, contain Andrew Body and make him one-dimensional. Key to victory number 2, find some consistency on offense, whether that's passing or running the football, or even use the run game if you have success with it to set up the pass. And then, of course, key to victory number 3, simply put, I'm going to continue to beat this home until it's fully taken advantage of. The want to. And Colsey, and quite honestly, I'm glad Colsey said this, and when he alluded to it, want to. So, again, if you're new to this channel, I'm going to say it. If you've been here before, I'm going to continue to say it. Wanting to make the tough catches, wanting to make the easy catches, wanting to make tackles, wanting to, gang tackle, wanting to make the easy throws, wanting to, make those throws into the tight windows on money downs when you got to have it. Simply put, wanting to score touchdowns, but wanting to be consistent, all those factors. And quite frankly, I'll say key to victory number 3 has not been lived up to recently. Wasn't in the first game, wasn't in the second game. Bits and pieces of it were there in the third game. Not all the way there, about maybe 65% of the way there it was there. But again, so those are your keys to victory for this evening. And with that, for my score prediction, quite honestly, and first I'll share Ace's from the night before. So Ace gave this score prediction 38 to 20 in favor of Alabama State. Bishop on Tuesday night gave his. He was in favor of FAMU by 3. I quite frankly think both of those are pretty spot on. Honestly, you have all Alabama State, who's averaging 44.3 points per game. They're going to get 28, I feel like, pretty easily. Is it possible FAMU could get 31 if they come to play and are consistent on offense? Yes. So for me, I'm going to go – well, let me go ahead and blow that up. So for me, I'm going to go right here. I think FAMU loses today, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see. I do – and you know what? And that feels realistic. I'm in favor of us by a small margin. I hope that's where we're at. But until I'm proven otherwise, this is where I'm thinking too, because of the fact of, we're averaging 18.7. I don't think we get far away from that today. And they're averaging 44.8. And again, we're not Miles. We're not Southern. We're better than both those teams. But at the same time, too, I don't think we're as good as UAB. So I do think this is where we go. And yeah, hey, I know. I don't think so either. And this was the discussion Wednesday night. Ooh. So field goal haunts them again. Oh man. That would be golly. I'll say this, man. If Eddie Robinson doesn't beat FAMU, and again, I hope he doesn't today. But man, if you can't get it done today, quite honestly, against what I feel like is not as talented of teams that FAMU's had the last 2 seasons, including last season and this year, if you can't get it done today, I don't know when you'll get it done. Because man, that is oof. We have the personnel, but as it stands, we're less than the sum of our parts. We are, quite honestly. I agree. It's very much less. I do think the personnel, I think they're great athletes. I think these guys have a great amount of potential. It's just having the personnel lined up in the right manner, I should say. And that's where I feel like and I'll be honest, I don't trust Colsey and this staff to, make the right decisions. Again, this is the same group that didn't have the hands team on the field when they were supposed to against Albany State. I really think this game comes down to special teams. It is. And it's going to be one of those games where, everybody's blood pressure is going to be up there in the final minutes or something probably. And you're going to be sweating it out till the end. And we'll see. And yeah, pray for no injuries. Hopefully there are none. So it would be nice for both sides to come out clean, injury free, and both sides to just go on about their business and get to next week healthy. For Alabama State, I'm not sure who that would be, but for FAMU, for us, it's definitely a trip to Atlanta against Mississippi Valley. So take care of business today. Get ready for a trip to Atlanta. So with that, thank you folks for joining in and watching and everything. I know if you're on your way to the stadium, they play Bethune next week. Oh yeah, they got it. Yeah, Alabama State's winning next week. That's not even a worry. If Bama State gets up by more than 17 points at the half, Colts needs to go with the next man up at QB. Yeah, quite honestly, it shouldn't even get to 17 and for you to make a change. It shouldn't. If RJ Johnson's playing like crap and throwing interceptions, you got to make that move quick. Because I don't know if you, against this team, I don't know if you overcome a 17-point hole. I don't know. That worked against Albany State. I don't know if that works today. If you get down by 17, 10, I can understand. Maybe even 14, but 17, even though that is like a 3-point difference, you got to make a change. And yes, they have to start fast. Yep, I agree. But yeah, folks, that's my score prediction for this evening. Again, hope I'm wrong. Thank you so much for those of you that tuned in. Again, if you're on your way to the stadium, continue to drive safe. If you're about to walk in and you're tired of me talking, again, go have fun. Enjoy the food on Perry Street for me. So yeah, there will be a post-game recap, win or lose. So just come on back. We'll be talking about it. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys listening as always. And as always, stay safe, stay blessed, enjoy the game. We will see you afterwards.